I was hoping we'd be able to do this at the combine, but not so much luck this year. It's just another event that we'll have to adjust to. It's kind of been the way that we've gone about the whole year, so it's something we're kind of used to. But unfortunately, it's not in person. I was hoping it would be.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year.
So first question, when you evaluate the whole Bengals roster, what is probably the biggest reasons why this team has been at the bottom of the division the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, well, we've got some work to do to compete in our division for sure. We've got a good division. It's historically been a good division. We've had our share of competing in it, but we certainly haven't the last couple of years. Number one, we've got to find a way to stay healthy, and I know that is something that we don't get to control all the time, but it is something that's reared its head over the course of the last couple of years. But when I look at our team, I'm excited. I think we've got one of the premier best young quarterbacks in the game, and we're going to do everything we can to build around him and give him the opportunity to really shine and show what he can do. And so it's going to start with him, and then beyond him, I think we've got a good receiving core. I think we've got a young, exciting receiver. I think we've got a consistent, proven veteran in Tyler Boyd. It'd be good. It's going to be great to have Joe Mixon back in the lineup. I think we've got a good tight end group that, once it's healthy again, it's really every position was hit by the injury bug. So it'll be good to get a lot of these guys back. Defensively, it'll be great to see Trey Waynes on the field. We haven't gotten that yet. DJ Reader coming back off of injury, that's something to build around. We really like our young linebacking core. I think it's really going to come into its own in the second year. I think we've got a great safety tandem that I'm excited with, and we've got to fill in some spots for sure. But I see a lot to get excited about, and it's number one, seeing the guys that didn't get to play much actually get on the field and produce at the level that we know they can produce.
Some of the people that produced are entering free agency, like, William Jackson III, AJ Green, and Carl Lawson. Where do things stand with them?
Well, we obviously haven't gotten anything to announce, so I don't have anything to announce today. They're guys that we developed, we found, we groomed, they've blossomed. I think there's a lot of interest around the league, and we'll certainly compete and try to get them back. That's been what our focus historically has been, is we want to keep our good players that come in here and develop that are Bengals, and we'll see what we can get done here as free agency kicks off.
Do you anticipate using the franchise tag this year?
It hasn't been decided yet. I'm not going to break any news today one way or the other on that. We'll see if the deadline is tomorrow. I've heard, rumors that it may be moved. But as I sit here right now, we don't know what the franchise numbers are. We don't know what the salary cap is. So we're going to have to we're going to have to assess it in real time when we get all the information, and we just don't have all the information right now.
Duke, historically, guard is not a position that you guys have paid a lot for. Has that changed at all as the game has changed in recent years, and in particular, with what happened with Burrow and where his injury kind of came from last year?
Yeah, I was as heartbroken as everybody when that happened. That's football. It can happen. You get breakdowns, you get guys in awkward positions, and all of a sudden you get the devastating injury. And we all hated to see that as much as our fans hated to see that. And the good news is with Joe, what I've seen around here is he's attacking at full speed and looks great. And so it's been very positive. Seeing him fight back, and it looks very positive for the future and for this coming season for Joe. But in terms of the guard position, it is something that we'll look at. We had a lot of guys playing with the O-line in general. With injuries, we had a lot of different combinations in there. And so when you're switching your combinations there, it's normally not a recipe for success. And so we'll have new faces in there. We'll have guys that have another year of development under their hat, hopefully a healthier group that stays healthy. And when we get 5 guys playing together, hopefully they can play together a long time. But it's a group that we're focused on. We're always focused on it. But that group in particular will be an important group for us.
Dude, could you foresee any other moves with some veterans on your roster to free some cap space? I know you've got cap space and you don't know what the cap is yet,
Right.
but could you foresee a move like that or moves like that?
Well, I don't rule anything out like that. We'll see how it goes. We've got some guys that have been longtime productive players here that we have nothing but a high regard for. So as we get the cap number and as we start maybe putting in place deals with our current players or other players, then we'll focus in on that and see what we have to do, if anything.
Duke, what has been the most challenging part for you in this pandemic era of your job where a lot of what you do is external? How have you managed to kind of adjust to that?
Pretty much everything has changed, Box. It's a good question, and it's just a constant adjustment. Our scouts have done a great job. We've been doing a lot just sitting at our desk. We're on Zoom calls with these schools where normally we're in person seeing these guys. We're watching tape. It was great to get to the Senior Bowl and actually see guys perform football live. I think we had a few live looks of games where we're in the stands, no contact with any of the staff, no contact with any of the players. So we've started our Zoom calls with these players, really getting to know them. So that's good. I think we're pretty well versed on how to Zoom with these guys and how to make quality time out of the time that we get with them. So that won't be a huge change. I think we'll get a real good feel for what the player is all about, what drives the player. Not seeing them in person leaves you a little concerned at this time of the year, but we'll get to the pro days. We'll get a view of them in person. We'll get some confirmed measurables. That'll be great. And then obviously there's a real heavy lift to getting all of the medical information we need to make informed decisions on the guys that we're going to be drafting. And so that's a big piece of what's going on. And the NFL Trainers Association is doing a great job of trying to put that together.
Duke, in the 25 years how you doing, Duke? In the 25 years you've been doing this, is this the least amount of information you've had about prospects when you take, and I guess just to follow up real quick after that, what do you do with guys that have just 1 year of tape or virtually no tape?
I would say it's the most unique year. We have a lot of information that we've been able to gather. The schools have been great in setting up Zoom calls to where we can actually get real information from sources over Zoom. Now, you like to be sitting down next to people, and you feel like maybe you get a little more of the true story that way. But we feel like we got a lot of information. In terms of players who haven't played in a year, that is somewhat concerning. You don't know how their developments happen. There are players in this draft that really have only played 1 year of college football, and then they didn't play this year. And so you're projecting, it's probably a bigger projection maybe than when you studied a guy that's played 3 years of college football. But that's our job, is to project them into our league and into our system and scheme and into our division and what we do. And so, yeah, it's a year like no other, and you could call it less information. It's just different information at this point. And we think by the time we get to drafting in late April, that we'll have everything we need to feel comfortable with.
Duke, how do you balance potentially using the franchise tag with being able to put as many pieces around Burrow like you talked about, because it is a direct cap hit and it's not like it's a long-term deal? So how do you balance those two things?
Well, you've couched the issue pretty well. I mean, those are the things that we have to balance. And right now we're doing a deep dive onto what it might take to get guys signed, both our own guys and out there guys, and how best to attack it to get the biggest bang for our buck. Over the past 10 years, the Cincinnati Bengals, we've been a top half of the league spending team. So we are going to spend on players, but we've also maintained a cap that allows us to be flexible. And in this year, we have flexibility, which is a good position to be in. And we're trying to best manage that number and come out of this free agency and the draft the most help that we can possibly get for our club.
With the salary cap not being announced yet, but so many teams are in salary cap jail. I mean, if you take out the 8 million, 10 million, whatever it is to sign rookies, maybe half the teams really can't participate in free agency. How differently could the landscape of free agency be for you guys this year?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing, Dave, to see exactly what happens with that. It'll be we're going to have to be flexible with it, and free agency has always been a day-by-day, moment-by-moment thing. And when something happens somewhere else or with us, you have to then adjust. And so we're going to be ready to quickly adjust, quickly pivot to guys who are on our list that become either available to us. Maybe they're a cap casualty from another team. Maybe they're a free agent that we thought wasn't going to be available to us that suddenly is available to us. So it is. I can't predict it. I know that there are teams that are in trouble from the cap standpoint and how they manage through that. I know that there'll be a lot of renegotiations, and maybe some of the teams that don't look like they're going to be players can manage to get themselves in position. I just don't know. But from our standpoint, the way that we've managed our cap, hitting in this year the way that we are, I think we've got certainly an advantage, and we're going to look to take advantage of that.
How much of Geno Atkins' 2020 season was impacted by his shoulder injury?
Yeah, Charles, most of his season was impacted. The Geno we saw, heading into the season during camp was the old Geno, and then he had the issue. He battled through. I've got nothing but high regard for Geno Atkins. He's a homegrown product, a real success story, and a guy that I've loved watching grow over the years. And he gave us what he had last year, but it was not near what he's used to and what we're used to seeing.
How does Geno Atkins fit into the equation this season?
We'll see as we go. We'll see, what, if any, of the room we need to do some other things. We'll see. It's a fluid situation. I don't have any updates on it right now. I know we've got high regard and hold him in high esteem. And he's been a Bengal his whole career. And we'll see if we can keep that going.
Have conversations with his future happened yet? About his future happened?
Well, we have conversations internally about everyone's future, everyone we have under contract and everyone we don't have under contract, and players that we've never seen before that are on other teams. So yes, have conversations happen? Absolutely. But that's not a unique situation just for him.
Duke, when you went out to go ahead, Jay.
I think I'm going to jump in there, Ben. Thank you. Duke, when you went out to Oregon a couple of years ago to watch Justin Herbert, how much did Penei Sewell stand out as well, and what did you observe?
Well, you're always focused on that year's draft class. You observe things, but you want to spend your time on the thing that's right in front of you. And so the majority of my time was spent on the thing right in front of me, and that was not only Justin, but it was also the other seniors that Oregon had, and they had a few. And so am I aware of him? Did I know who he was? The answer to both those are yes. Did I do a deep dive into all of his strengths and weaknesses? Not at that time.
I know last year you guys weren't too interested in listening to offers and moving out of number one, but this year at 5, how receptive do you think you guys would be to possibly moving down in the first round?
Well, I never say never to anything. It's something that we're going to have to be ready for. Sometimes they happen a little earlier, but most of the time when an opportunity comes up, it's a real-time opportunity, and it's coming up when you're on the clock. And so we'll go through all the different scenarios. We'll drill down on our player list and understand exactly what it means if we're going to move down 5 spots, 10 spots, 15 spots, exactly what we're going to be looking at that spot in the draft. And so that and then what the compensation is. So there's 2 different things that we look at. Are we getting compensation that we want? And are we getting a level of player that we feel good about passing up the current player that we would be selecting. So we will go through that process. We do every year. And if opportunities come up, we'll be ready for it. And if it doesn't, we'll be ready to sit and pick and feel great about where we are.
Duke, why has it been difficult to to replace a left tackle after Whitworth left? Why has it been so tough to find another left tackle that as a long-term solution at that spot?
Yeah, it's a tough position to play. Number one, they're playing against really the premier athletes of the sporting world, really, and so it's not an easy position to play and play effectively. I think most teams' left tackles get beat from time to time, even the very top ones, and so it's a challenging position to play. Number one, number two, we've had injuries at the position that have stunted the growth of some of our guys over time, and I think, where we are right now, we feel good that we might have one, and he's got to stay healthy, but he's shown real flashes of being a very good player, and so we'll see how it goes, and whether we add to the group or not, that'll be something that to be determined as we go forward.
Duke, has this year been as hard as any in terms of trying to forecast who might be out there in free agency because of the salary cap concerns we talked about previously, that people are, teams are going to be in jail and maybe you get cap casualties? That how do you project these cap casualties? Do you have a pretty good handle on projecting some of the cap casualties, or where do you stand with that?
Yeah, we try to do a deep dive into the teams that are going to have to make moves to just be in compliance, and so it doesn't take much thought to look at their highest paid players, and they're either going to redo them or they're going to ask them to take less, or they're going to cut them loose. So we have an awareness of the other 31 teams, the situations they have, and the players that might be in play there. And then we don't operate in a silo. We talk to other teams, and so we have a pretty good idea of maybe some guys who have been floated on the trade market. We want to keep as much capital as we can. We think our team needs the capital, so I don't anticipate trading away a bunch of picks this year. But if there's something that makes sense as we go, we'll see. And if guys are turned loose, we will have had the evaluation done. We'll be ready to make a call on them and put a price tag on them for us.
2 more minutes.
Dude, given your cap flexibility and how many teams are strapped, do you envision yourselves being as active as last year, or still more active than you have in past years?
Well, we're going to see what comes our way. I mean, we want to attack our team needs through the draft, through free agency, through re-signing our own players, through development of young players that we have. But we are certainly not going to sit on our hands as we start off. I can't make any predictions. Free agency is unpredictable. We haven't gotten a chance to visit with these guys yet and find out who might have interest, what the price tag is, and how many of them we can fit. And once it kicks off, we'll get a better feeling for maybe where the opportunities are for us to make headway. But it's a hard thing to predict. I know we'll be prepared to jump in and see what we can get done. And hopefully we'll be able to get the things done that we envision. And whether it happens or not, we'll see.
And you guys are 6-25-1 the last couple of years. I mean, the questions about the staff that are going to follow are obvious, but what was the core reasoning for bringing back Zach and all his coordinators again this year and kind of believing that they can turn it around?
We think stability will help us. Again, Paul, we would have loved to have been able to play with a lot of our key pieces this year. And we see a trend in the right direction. We haven't won enough games. I don't have to sit here and tell you that. You already know that, and you've recited that, and everybody in this building knows that. But we're trying to do what we feel is best for the immediate future of the Cincinnati Bengals, and that future is now. And we think we've got a quarterback that is trending in the right direction, and we think he's got a comfort level with what we're doing on that side of the ball. And then defensively, it was a very hard lift this year with the injuries that we had. We ended up playing with a group of defensive tackles that gave us everything they had, but none of them were with us in the offseason. It was a completely new group. And so when you bring new guys in, sometimes it takes a while for them to gel. And again, my hat's off to them, because we had a lot of guys come in, play right away, and give us good snaps. But it was a hard lift to get the unit playing as one there, because, you know, of the pieces that kept going out.
One last question.
Duke, how tough is it to get reliable information about guys that opted out? Find out how they're working out, find out what they're eating, you know, all those kind of things. That's a big question. A big variable is in terms of not only the guy didn't play, there's no tape on the guy, but, you know, what did he do? What's he like? I mean, how tough was that to get that information, or can you get it?
We're still going through it. I mean, you can only get what's available, and we've got talented scouts with a lot of good resources and sources in a lot of these schools. And, you know, people that are doing things, they don't want to keep it silent. They want to broadcast what they're doing. And so we see video that's being sent and posted from the different workout facilities and so forth. But hopefully we'll be able to get in front of these players on Zoom meetings. And then we'll also be able to see them in person at their schools. And when you look at a guy, you can tell what they've been doing. You can tell if they've been doing nothing. You can tell if they've been working hard. But if they're not playing, there's nothing to evaluate, and that's just the way it is. And everybody's in the same boat with those guys.